Hello, folks, and welcome to the Anti-Heroes podcast with your host, Zach Blair. I am Zach Blair. Hi. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in, man. I keep meeting folks out in the wild, IRL, as people say in real life, that are giving me more positive feedback about this podcast and this thing I'm doing, and I just couldn't be happier. I am so lucky that I get a chance to do this. I'm so lucky I get to meet other guitar players and other musicians, other bassists, which I've been talking to bass players lately, if you've been paying attention. Um, man, today I get to meet a guy I've been wanting to meet or I get to talk to. Actually, I met him previously, but I get to talk to a guy I've been wanting to sit down with for quite some time. As I've said many times on this podcast, I was a thrash metal kid, folks. I wasn't into, you know, all metal. I wasn't into glam metal. I wasn't into I at the time I wasn't into Guns N' Roses. I wasn't into that stuff. I was into thrash metal. The heavier, the harder, the faster, the better. Started with Metallica and went from there. And then I got into punk. I mean, I kind of, I've said it 1,000 times on here, but being in Sherman, Texas, I got into whatever was going to piss people off. And all the thrash bands wore punk shirts. Slayer guys like Jeff Hanneman had punk stickers on his guitar. So I got into those bands because it was also fast and aggressive and angsty and pissed off lyrics. So it was all the same to me. But man, was I into thrash metal. And I was into Bay Area thrash metal. So we're talking Possessed, Exodus, eventually Metallica. Metallica had started in California, but had made their way up there, so they were known as a Bay Area band. But Forbidden, uh, you know, and my guest today, Robb Flynn, who had started Forbidden, and his band Violence. Now, Violence had a record called Eternal Nightmare, and God, I was obsessed with that record. Holy shit. I wore it out, all the ink off that cassette many times. I just loved it. I fantasized about what that scene was like and who those people were. And I knew they weren't much older than me. And so it just gave me this idea that one day I could do all that. I would read about those shows and how crazy everything was and just, you know, endlessly poured over those records. I just loved them. It meant so much to me, and it still does. I still listen to those records and sort of romanticize them the way most people would about like Dylan or something, or their favorite classic records. To me, Possessed, Seven Churches, and Violence, Eternal Nightmare, and you know, Exodus, Bonded by Blood. Those are the records that I have this sort of soft spot and sentimental place in my past and in my heart for. But anyway, so Robb Flynn, my guest today, he was in Violence. He had started Forbidden, and then he left and started just the wonderful, amazing band Machine Head. And we talk all about that. We talk about his gear choices and his guitars and everything else. And he was just so gracious with his time. And when we met him, he was a fan of Rise Against, which just blew my mind. And it's just one of those moments. It's one of those moments I consider myself very, very lucky to experience. And I know I'm lucky. I know I am lucky. Anyway, I'm going to shut up right now, and I'm going to let you listen to my interview with Robb Flynn.
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
Doing good.
So a little backstory. You and me just met recently at a festival, the Blue Ridge Rock Fest. And like, as you were saying, we both kind of have show blue balls because we did not get to play. Uh,
Yeah.
but for me, and I know I've done a big long intro, I've wanted to meet you for quite some time because I know I have made my career basically predominantly in a punk rock band, but I was in a thrash metal band. I was in Guar before I was in Rise Against, and I was a thrash metal kid. I got into punk rock from thrash metal and stuff. And specifically, my favorite band was Violence, your first band, or maybe not your first band, but you weren't much older than me. You guys were not much older than me, and I remember your tape and I say tape because I had it on tape. Eternal
Right,
Nightmare.
right,
I
for sure.
fucking wore out. I had to buy it 3 or 4 different times because I would wear the ink of it off, and I just studied it, and I still listen to it. And then I heard
That's
you had
awesome.
started a new band, Machine Head, and then at one point, your guitartnership, as I have coined the phrase, for Phil Demmel was with you in Machine Head and everything, and it just blew my mind. And what a great band Machine Head and has been or is, and I've always been a fan of that as well. So it was a real honor meeting you, and I really appreciate you doing this dorky podcast of mine.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for all the kind words, man. Appreciate that.
Of course, of course, of course. Well, let's get into it a little bit. So, what started you playing guitar? What were your original first guys?
Um, I mean, the first guy was Tony Iommi, Black
Yeah,
Sabbath.
of
I
course.
mean, I was crazy about Black Sabbath. I was obsessed with Black Sabbath. I mean,
Yeah.
I was into, it's funny because when I first started, I had this friend named Lisa Segro, and she was kind of my best friend when I was in like fourth and fifth grade, and she kind of turned me on to, up until then, the music that I was allowed to listen to by my parents, and I say allowed because I wasn't allowed to listen to a lot of music, but what I was listening to was kind of like the pop music that you hear on the radio in whatever the 70s, 80s, and so I didn't have a lot of it was, and then my parents listened to a lot of R&B, so Earth, Wind and
Oh yeah.
Fire, the Commodores. I could listen to the Happy Beatles, but I couldn't listen to the drugged out Beatles. So
Haha. Yeah. Yeah.
No Sergeant Pepper's, no Revolver. I could listen to I Want to Hold Your Hand, and that's it. And so,
Wow.
and I was crazy about music. I loved music, even back then. Like I would always trying to memorize songs that I heard on the radio or whatever. And then this friend of mine named Lisa Segros, she turned me on in one fell swoop, turned me on to Devo, We Are Not Men, uh, Van Halen 1, and Duran Duran. Like,
That's a
and so like
that's a great friend. That's a great friend.
she was a great friend, and like I loved all of it. I loved Devo, and I just remember like the guitar stuff on Van Halen 1, just like I'd never heard anything. I didn't even know it was real. Like it just didn't even sound real to me. And
Yeah.
I remember her parents got a refrigerator, and we took like part of the cardboard and we carved out like guitars, and we drew strings on it, and we'd sit there and just like air guitar to Van Halen like Inner Mirror and stuff. And so,
Yeah.
probably my first guitar experience was really that. But I started playing guitar. My dad bought me like a used acoustic guitar, had black strings. I remember it had black strings, four black strings on it. That
Wow.
was so old. And Black Sabbath was the first thing that I ever really could figure out how to play, like the notes of a
Right.
Black Sabbath song, because they were still pretty simple. So, Tony Iommi was like ground zero for my playing.
Yeah. Well, and that's so interesting. And think about it. So this is a guy that had a physical handicap. You know what I mean? Like his fingers. The famous story. And so maybe he was writing those riffs out of necessity because that was just what his was in his hands at the moment. And he wrote these ubiquitous riffs that guys like you and me could play. We could get our heads around it. It was and it was slower. It wasn't, so fast that it was incomprehensible. And his lead work was slower and things like that because he of his fingers of his thing. And it created this music that guys like you and me could get our heads around, but it also was so dark and evil and asked so many questions. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it was everything. Because I'm with you. That was me as well, and I've kind of I've thought about that so often, and so much that he was so important to everything. The great pantheon of all guitar, I think for me is kind of ground zero was Tony Iommi.
Yeah, and like he just found a way to make I mean, they were simple enough to learn. Like the first riff I ever learned how to play was Sweet Leaf, and I just,
Yeah.
just single note down, down, no, no, no. And but he just found a way to make three notes sound so fucking heavy. Like Black
Yeah.
Sabbath is literally three notes over and over and over again until the end. And
No, you're
it's
right.
just, he found ways to make simple ideas just sound incredibly powerful. And I think, some of that kind of came into my lexicon as well,
Sure.
that it doesn't have to be
Sure.
a million notes, that it can be just like three or four notes and it's still going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
then I think probably the next two or three, I definitely loved, I loved Ozzy because of Black Sabbath. And so then I got really into Randy Rhoads, but obviously that was like a whole other level that I couldn't even play at all. But I did love the musicality of it. And then I grew up in the Bay Area, and I just happened to be a teenager around the time that Metallica moved to the Bay Area. And,
Right.
I was living in Fremont, which is just a kind of, back then it was like a white trash town that, was about 50 miles outside of the city. And,
Yeah.
and so, going to the city was like, you might as well have been going to freaking Nevada. I mean, it was a big effort.
Sure.
And and one of the first concerts that I go to is Metallica opening for Raven at the Berkeley Keystone in front of 250 people, in a
God
500
damn it.
cap room, and not even sold out, and it's Exodus opening, Metallica supporting, Raven closing. And I had my dad drop us off at the show because like I
God
didn't have a
damn it.
car, like it was hella far, and he agreed to do it. And then, it's just like, okay, at 10:30, I'm going to be back here. You got to meet me outside because this is before cell phones. And,
Yeah.
like we walk in and, but, granted, I'd seen a couple of big shows at that point, like AC/DC, and I loved AC/DC. I loved Highway to Hell,
Sure.
and, the first rock concert that I saw was AC/DC, but I didn't want to play guitar because of it. And,
Right.
I walk in to the show, and right there at a bar stool signing autographs is James Hetfield. Like this is the first person we see as we walk into this club. First time ever, like been to like a club, and we're like, holy shit, like we can get a fucking autograph right now. And
All
like so we
right.
hold out our ticket and like he signs it, and like I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. We had always heard about the Velvet Rope and whatever, and here's the fucking lead singer of Metallica.
Yeah.
And so they go on and then they play, and it's super funny, like 'cause I have like random, aside from the fact that I just head banged the entire time, like
Of
I never
course.
went up front. I was in the back of the crowd just head banging, like me and my friend Jim the whole time. And but I remember he was wearing uh it was a Ronald Wilson Reagan shirt, and it had an upside down cross on it, and then it said Ronald 6, Wilson 6, Reagan 6. So like this, Reagan's the devil kind of a shirt with, I was like, yeah. And
Yeah.
then I just, you always hear about like older bands talk about how they saw the Beatles on Ed
Yeah.
Sullivan, and that was like why they started playing music. And for me, that was my Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment. Like my
Wow.
my friend and I left that show, and it was like, we're gonna play thrash metal. We're gonna be faster than everybody else. We're gonna be heavier than everybody else. Like we gotta, like, I mean, just like it was like that was all we talked about, and that's basically what started me down the road playing thrash.
I love that, all of that so much. And let me just tell you, I am so jealous and was so jealous of you guys on that coast and that scene, you know. And I'm in this dip fuck little town in Texas, me and my brother, and we're basically the same guy. You're like you. My dad took us to our shows. He would drive us to Dallas, which was about an hour from where we lived. And all those, Slayer and Exodus. I went and saw Slayer, went and saw Exodus, we saw Anthrax, Exodus, and Celtic Frost, and
Oh
But
shit, killer.
my dad would drop us off and the whole thing. But I remember being so jealous of, and I remember reading about how young Violence were, and Larry Lalonde from Possessed, and the guys in Possessed, and the Bay Area thrash scene, and how young it was. And you guys were going to all those shows, the Stone and everywhere else. And I was just like, God damn it! I wish I had FOMO before I knew what that was. You know what I mean? I was just like, I'm missing everything. I'm missing it
You know
all.
what though? You know what though? It's funny. Is like it was so small. Like I said, it was 250
Yeah,
people. You know what I mean? Like this, like people hear Metallica and they go, "Oh my God," stadiums or whatever. But like this is, the first time I saw Possessed was at Ruthie's Inn. There was 200 people. Maybe
God
300
damn it.
people, and it was crazy. It was awesome. And my friend Leroy had a total like man crush on Mike Terreo, the guitar player, the dark
Oh
haired guitar
yeah,
player. And so we had to go stand right in front center of Mike Terreo, and like he just sat there like he like cut the next day, cut his hair like Mike Terreo, and bought like
that's
white Capizio shoes like Mike Terreo and shit. Like it was just, I mean,
that's amazing.
we were super young, and we were younger. We were considerably younger than those guys. We were just
Yeah,
the we were young teenagers going to those shows, and like it wasn't, it didn't seem big. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it didn't seem like this special thing. Like we didn't know
Yeah,
that at the time, but of course it was this special thing, and we just happened to be lucky, because
fuck.
that's where we lived at the time.
Right.
And but so, then to me came along Exodus, who I like I said, I saw Exodus open, and I did love Exodus at that point.
Right.
But as my guitar skills got, so then Hetfield's, clearly a big influence, and to me playing, trying to get to sound like Hetfield, like rhythm
Mm-hmm.
wise,
Aren't we all?
I start hearing about down picking for the first time. Oh no, Hetfield down picks everything, and that's why it kind of sounds the way it does. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like what's down picking? Like, oh no, that's where you hit every single string down. I was like, oh wow, so then I'm trying, you try to do little things like that. Um, very
Yeah.
first, very first guitar solo I ever learn all the way through is Gary Holt's lead in the title track to Bonded by Blood.
Oh, fuck.
Like just that's my
Yeah.
I sit there and I work on it forever, and finally like I just get it down. And like from that point on I'm like, oh my God, like I can play a lead. Like
You
it
can
was
play.
just this,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I can play a fucking lead. Like this is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like I never thought I'd be able to play this, but
Yeah.
just like these little incremental things. And I mean, I think around that time too, like Ingve had kind of come around, and like we had the Ingve demo, and you know I knew I was never ever ever gonna get like to that thing, but you
Sure.
just you tried to learn even the slowest Ingve lick. I could never
Right.
do all that, all the arpeggios. Like I could never do that shit. But you tried to learn the slow things, and
Yeah.
somehow you could, you could bring those out. And so, yeah, just like, seeing that. And then my friend and I had one friend named Craig who I ended up being in Forbidden with, and he was crazy about Slayer. I was crazy about Metallica and Exodus. And I wasn't that crazy about Slayer.
All right.
Like
Okay.
I liked Slayer at that time,
Sure.
but like Show No Mercy was a little too like new wave of British heavy metal for me, and I was just
Right.
getting all thrash at that point. By the way, shout out to Accept, Restless and Wild, because that was a huge record. Fast as a Shark and stuff like that was a
Oh yeah.
big
It's
influence on us.
it's great. It's
But
great.
but
Yeah.
then but then I see Slayer plays a show in Berkeley called Day on the Dirt, and it was put on by Wes Robinson, who ran Ruthie's Inn. So again, get dropped off by actually my friend's dad drops us off at this, and this is a daytime show. This is a daytime show in a park in the middle of Berkeley. Like
Right.
this is just a park, like right next to the freeway, and he has a stage. He gets a bunch of like weird classic rock bands. It's like Blue Cheer, and like weird, you know, like very not of the same genre, like
Right.
bands. And then the last three bands are Exodus, Slayer, and Suicidal Tendencies headlining.
Oh shit.
And so Exodus comes on and Exodus is killer. I'm worshiping Exodus at this point, and I'm loving Slayer. Slayer's now on Haunting the Chapel EP. And there was something different about Slayer.
Yeah.
Like they were, I don't want like this sounds weird to say, but they were pros. They were
Right.
professional. They looked and sounded and acted and spoke to the audience like we're the fucking headliner. And
Right.
I remember being like blown away. They were super tight. They fucking killed it. People went crazy. And then, and then and then Suicidal came on, and it was just like a fight. Like it was just a fight for 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
like Suicidal brought all their fucking crazy crew from LA. The sun goes down, and like a bunch of their crew dudes just grab flashlights, like three flashlights, and then they're just shining them like on the side of the stage, and that's the light show. Like there's no lights, they're just
Right.
dudes with flashlights,
Right.
and they just keep on going, and the pit's raging, and fucking, and I was just like, at that point, that was it for me. I mean, I was just
Yeah.
so fucking crazy about, thrash that
S-
again was just like we gotta figure out how to play a show.
So you were was Forbidden, you were an original member of Forbidden? You start we were like
I started
you
Forbidden.
started Forbidden.
I
Wow. See,
started Forbidden. Yeah, me
I
and
was
me
a
and Jim Pittman.
yeah, I was a huge Forbidden fan as well, and all of that whole scene. I mean, Death Angel, all of it. Um, so Forbidden, how long was your tenure with that before Violence? So like, take me through how that sort of happened, how that.
I want to say probably like 3 years. Started Forbidden at the end of high school, and then uh, yeah, went through a couple of lineup changes, but it was like we were like all the like a lot of the songs. I wrote about half the first album, so I wrote Chalice of
Okay.
Blood, Forbidden Evil, As Good as Dead, part of March into Fire, and we
I
had
know them.
a bunch of other songs that never really made the cut, but were great demos that became others later Violent songs and later Forbidden songs. Like the riffs ended up there. Like I wrote a song in Forbidden called Next to Die, which became I Profit in Violence
Oh
on
yeah,
album number 2.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we kind of just like recycled riffs from that. But then we started doing, I mean, we just started doing, we were just playing backyards in this fucking place in the Fremont, like
yeah.
we started playing like backyard parties. We started playing living room parties. We're playing, for, community centers
Yeah.
and, church halls and, shit like that. A lot of backyard parties though, just kind of cutting our teeth. Like we just had a bunch of thrash and punk rock friends. And then you know, we'd set up in the backyard, like
Yeah.
on the, not even on like the porch, just like on the cement. And then everybody would just mosh in the fucking, on the grass in somebody's
Right.
backyard. And, a friend of ours would buy a keg. And, at the time we were playing like Whiplash by Metallica. We only had like 4 songs, right? So you had to like if we wanted to play a show, we had to play like so we were playing Black Magic by Slayer, we're playing Whiplash by Metallica, A Lesson in Violence by Exodus. And I think
Yeah.
people might have
That's
thought these were
awesome.
our own songs, which probably worked to our advantage. But
Right. Right. Right.
but but then, our guitar player Craig, um, he had the gift of gab, still does. Like he's just like he can talk to anybody, and like at the time I was very introverted. Like I couldn't make a cold call if you held the gun to my head. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I just couldn't talk to people. And he called up Wes Robinson from Ruthie's Inn and just threw anything that would stick at him. And Wes said, "Yeah, I'm going to get you on this show, Metal Church headlining, and it's a bunch of other thrash bands, and you guys can open. And I'll pay you $15." So when we were just like, this is like thrash metal mecca for us. This is ground zero of everything that's happening. And did I lose you? I just lost your video.
Yeah. I hang on a second.
Okay, you're back.
Well, see, yeah, I lost you though. Your video's not there.
Oh,
Weird. Well, I think it'll. I mean, I can if I'm not if you see that I'm not like make I have no video on you. I can, but I can hear you perfectly well.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see you and you're not frozen anymore, so we're good.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
But yeah, so we start playing Root These In, and unbeknownst to us, they recorded the show for a compilation record, which was kind of funny. Like they recorded the bands, but then didn't tell the bands, and so they recorded the show. And the very first Forbidden song comes out, "March into Fire," and it comes out on this compilation called "The Eastern Front," which is like a compilation of like just a shit ton of punk bands and a shit ton of hardcore bands and a shit ton of thrash bands. That's kind of like the new wave of shit coming out.
Right.
You there still?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. You just kind of cut. Yeah. But yeah, you've been solely clear for me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so somewhere around there, we end up getting rid of the drummer, and a guy named Paul Bostaff is
Hmm.
playing in kind of like a Dokken type band, I guess you could say, like a hard, like a hard rock band, but not really like a
Right.
thrash band. And we get him in to the thing, and he's a killer drummer. Like he can play like Rush songs and shit. We're like, whoa, this
Right.
dude's like next level. And so from that point on, like we really kind of like it takes a turn, and that's when it starts getting like, we sound like a fucking professional band. And
Right.
then we start getting more shows, and yeah, just like we ended up. We played shows with Hyrax, we played shows with Violence, we play shows with Death
Hyrax.
Angel. We kind of start getting into the mix, and
Yeah.
pretty cool. And then around 87, I joined Violence.
So you left Forbidden to, and so Violence were already a band, and you joined the
Yes,
band. Yeah.
Violence were already a band. We were already playing shows with them. We rehearsed right next to each other. You know, so then that was kind
Right.
of awkward because we rehearsed right next to each other, and then like I quit this band, and then but now I'm in this other band, and we're seeing each
Yeah.
other, and
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yeah. I punished Paul Bostaph at a festival one time, and I think I took him off guard because I was just like, I love your bands, man. Anyway, I could come on pretty strong. But yeah, what a great drummer. And
Sick drummer.
I love that Slayer sort of kept it really in the family, and when they needed a drummer, they got Paul Bostaph. When they needed a guitar player, they got Gary Holt. They kept it within the real deal. You know what I mean? Like the original guard. I just loved that. I thought I was respected that so much. Um, so what guitars, just to be nerdy, what guitars were you using at this point? Like what was your main thing going on at that point?
Um, my main guitar was a Charvel. It was like a
Okay.
Charvel. Eddie Van Halen had come out with that kind of original kind of Sig series, and I was, by this point, now I've gone back and I've learned Randy Rhoads licks and I've learned Eddie Van Halen licks. Now I can do leads, and I'm
Yeah.
like really like, kind of pivotal. Those two certainly later in my guitar learning become just absolutely pivotal. Like
Sure.
I can't get enough of either of them, and I especially love the kind of I call it like I'm not really I'm self-taught, so like I kind of gave everything names for stuff. So like Randy Rhoads always plays in like the Egyptian scale.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's
Yeah.
called, but it sounds like Egyptian to me, so I
Yeah.
call it the Egyptian scale. Other guitar players play in like the sad scale. So it's like it becomes about sad notes and evil notes and Egyptian notes. And like that's how it all
Right.
like that's how my brain processes it, right? And
Right.
and I just start devouring everything. I just try and learn every song that I love. I got a
Right.
good ear, and I just sit there and I play like every I learn all of "Don't Break the Oath" by Merciful Fate. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
I learn all of "Bonded by Blood." I learn all of fucking Slayer. Like all of
Yeah.
Metallica songs. Like I just start learning every single song, and then I'd take a little. I had like a cassette recorder, like the kind that you just press, and I would
Sure.
sit there, and then I would record one track of it, and then I would put it out there, and then I would play along to the track that I just recorded. And so I kind of get good at playing to another guitar by doing so
Yeah.
because I'm just like,
Yeah.
Like I don't have another guitar player in my, in the house, but I can do it, and I can do a harmony now, and I learn how to do a harmony and what these notes mean, and
Yeah.
a lot of that was the Randy Rhoads stuff, because he did a lot of really cool harmonies, and
Yeah,
so
he
same
did.
with Merciful Fate. And then, really just my dad makes me a deal. We were very poor.
Oh yeah.
He rented me my first guitar. So the first guitar he rents me is an Area Pro 2. It's
Oh yeah.
$45 for 3 months, comes with an amp about this big, and like I plug in, and I've got a guitar now. And so he he tells me, look, if you stick with it, I'll rent it for another 3 months. And if you stick with that, I'll match you whatever you save for a guitar. Because
Oh
I'm,
wow.
at this point I'm working. I got a paper route. I just started a job I start working like one of my first jobs at Marie Callender's. Like I'm a busboy and a dishwasher at fucking Marie
Yeah,
Callender's.
yeah, yeah.
And so I save all summer, and I save up about 300 bucks, and he matches me, and we get one of those Charvel guitars. As like, I had Ibanez before that, but then my Charvel becomes like the main guitar that I'm playing in Forbidden, and
Yeah.
later on Violence. And I gotta say, man, those Charvels were nice,
Was it the
and it was
Strat headstock, or was it
threat.
is a Strat headstock? Okay, because they did the like the pointy
No, it was the
headstock.
kind of it was the kind of hockey stick looking headstock.
It was a hockey stick. Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
What
yeah.
what was the finish? 'Cause I'm a dork.
Just black, yeah, just
Just black.
black.
I
Yeah.
had the I had like the Model 4, I think, and it had like this kind of lava looking crackle finish, and it was the same thing. There was a store in southern Oklahoma around where I'm from, uh, and they would let you pay it out. You could take the guitar home and pay it, weekly. I don't know why
Oh,
the dude
cool.
did that, because my dad, we were poor too, because he totally defaulted on it and we didn't take them back. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that guy must have gone out of business. I feel terrible now, but shit. Um, but yeah, those were
Yeah,
great guitars. Those were great guitars.
they were, what was killer about them too, and I maybe I just got so used to it, but I kind of got spoiled on like this. It had a different shaped neck. I don't know I don't even know how you call it, but it was kind of wider
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
little deeper. Like it wasn't like a Fender Strat, and it wasn't like a Telecaster. Like it was like wider, and it had pretty chunky frets that I
yeah,
remember were super smooth. I know it's a weird
yeah.
thing to remember, but like even now I play guitar sometimes, and the frets, this sounds kind of strange, but like the frets are very scratchy, and I don't like
No,
it. Like it
I know
feels cheap. It
exactly
feels
what
cheap to me.
it's Rob. As you've been talking, we have so much in common, and I have that in common with you. And I tell you what I found that bucked that system was stainless steel frets.
Oh, okay.
if
Is that what it
if
is?
you and I don't know if those Charvels had stainless steel frets. I had it put on this SG of mine, this like 76, and I'm telling you, man, it's stainless steel and it's that same smoothness. It's that glassy kind of feel, you know.
Yes.
I had it
As
put
a,
on a
as
lot of
opposed
guitars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as opposed to like some of the other companies which have like these very scratchy frets, it
you could
doesn't
feel
move
them.
as much. And yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And even if you even after you jam for a while, it doesn't smooth out ever. Like, and
you're
those that Kramer was like a different fucking animal.
you're
And
totally right.
and you know what too? It was like I don't remember if right away I did this, but I'm pretty sure it was like it had one pickup only and one volume knob, which was kind of
Yeah.
the Eddie Van Halen thing at the time. And like I was all about it. Like I was just
Oh,
like, this is way easier. I don't want all these knobs. I don't even know what these other knobs do, at this point. I
yeah.
still don't know what these other knobs, they don't do shit. And
Yeah,
so it just kind of
yeah,
like, taught me like, oh, this is just simplify. You just simplify it and you streamline it, And so
yeah.
and then I because I had pictures of Eddie Van Halen on my wall, of course, because fucking guitar players, and I had Randy Rhoads, and I had Tony Iommi, and I had a bunch of metal, and I had Rob Halford and metal, because I kind of wanted to be a singer too, but I just didn't really have the confidence to be a singer at that time.
Yeah.
And we had actually had, Forbidden had a great singer, so there was no reason for me to be the singer.
Sure.
But I had a picture of Eddie Van Halen, right, on my wall. And, this could have just been a moment in time, something that he did every once in a while. But the picture had him holding the guitar pick with these fingers. No, not
Right.
these fingers, but these fingers. And he
The
was
middle
doing a
finger.
lead. Yeah, the middle finger. And he
Yeah.
was doing a lead. And in, my teenage mind, I just went, I guess that's how you hold a pick when you do a guitar solo. No,
Right.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but this is fucking Eddie Van Halen. Clearly, I guess that's how you hold. So ever since then, every lead I've ever done, I started holding a pick like this. And to this day, I still like I'll do rhythms like this and I'll just switch it to do that with the lead
That's
because
amazing.
because I had this fucking picture on my wall that who knows that, I mean I've seen him do that with that. I think he just kind of goes
Yeah.
back and forth. I don't know why.
It's
But
when he does that super like that super double picking thing. He'll go to like one finger. It makes a lot of sense. You and me both talked about when we did meet, we talked about the phenomenon of James Hetfield putting both his index and his middle finger on the pick
yes. Yeah.
all the time. And
Yes.
I was talking, and you were like, "Oh, I do that as well." And I was like, "I just kind of started implementing it because you do get sort of a little bit of a different take on it. You know, you
It
can
it,
sort of, yeah,
it makes the up stronger. So like if you're going
yup,
bada 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 bada
stronger.
bada bada, it makes your up stronger. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay,
makes
and
sense.
it's an interesting thing. And so I do that, and then I just switch to that for the lead. And you know what I find, and maybe this is why he did it, but like when you're holding it like this, it kind of gives it like a sharper angle. But when you
Sure.
switch it to like that, it makes it like a flatter angle. And
Yeah,
so it's a little, you're getting a little bit less of that like string scratchy squeak sound. I
yeah.
don't know. That's all I really noticed from it. But
For
that's how I play now.
folks listening, we're talking about adding we're probably talking about putting your index and your middle finger on the pick at all times, and then for a lead, we're taking the index finger off, and it
Yeah, you're
does
three
it
three
change it,
fingers for a rhythm, three fingers for a
yeah,
rhythm. Yeah.
and it changes your angle, changes your angle. So was that Charvel? Was that the guitar you recorded "Violence Eternal Nightmare" with?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Wow, no
Yeah.
shit, no
Hmm.
shit. Well, so I know Violence. You guys did you did Oppress the Masses and you did the EP and what uh, what was the decision? I know, like, did you left Violence correct before Machine Head and they stayed together? Wasn't that the deal?
Well, I started Machine Head as a side project while I was in Violence. And I was just
Okay,
like, hey, we had, you gotta remember like Violence was I mean, we're kind of Violence is fortunate that it gets kind of lumped in with the thrash scene of the
sure,
Metallicas and the Slayers, but like really we were the third wave of thrash. There was like
right,
the first wave, which was like Slayer, Metallica. The second wave was like Testament, Exodus, Death Angel. Third wave was Forbidden. You know,
right,
Violence. Other
Violence,
band, and I'm just kind of going through like the Bay Area bands, but you know, Violence's first album comes out in '88. That's
right,
5 years after Kill 'Em All, 5 years after Show No Mercy. Slayer's already on South of Heaven. Metallica's already on And Justice for All. A
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
time and a lot of music. Rain and Blood's already happened. Master of Puppets has already happened. So like a lot of time has passed, even though it doesn't seem like it now. And so by the time like we get to our second record, like thrash is pretty much like dying. Metallica's
right,
about to do, the Black Album, and then every fucking band is going to copy the Black Album because it's the biggest fucking record on the fucking face of the earth.
yeah,
Chili
yeah,
Peppers are getting hot, Primus is getting hot. Everybody's kind of going like to this weird thrash funk horrible shit. And
yeah,
I'm just like, I wanted, Violence is, we don't have a deal, and I'm just like, well, I just, I've got these songs, and I don't want to do this other thing, but we'll keep going until we can't go anymore. But
right,
it's dying, and certainly in the Bay Area, thrash is dying, and Violence is
right,
dying with it. And so, yeah, I end up leaving, and I start Machine Head, And Machine Head is certainly influenced by thrash, but not it's definitely influenced by other stuff too. Like I'm listening to by this point, I'm listening to a ton of industrial. I'm listening to a ton of hardcore. Like I'm worshiping Poison Idea. Like I
Right.
love Ministry. I love Alice in Chains, Dirt. I love
Yeah.
Temple of the Dog. I love
Yeah.
sound. So some of that like is kind of reaching back to my Black Sabbath love. Like
Yeah.
those are the bands to me, like, oh, this is like the new Black Sabbath type of vibe.
Sure.
And then stuff like Biohazard comes along and just blows me away.
Yeah.
I end up catching Biohazard on one of the last tours I do with Violence. I end up staying in New York City just with visiting some friends, and I catch a Biohazard show, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like this is
Yeah.
fucking insane! Like I didn't know you could do these kind of grooves." And so that becomes kind of a big influence at that point. And unfortunately, at that point, I no longer had the Charvel guitar.
Oh no.
And yeah, the headstock ended up getting broken, and then I got fixed it, and then it was never quite the same, and then it gets stolen,
Oh
and
fuck.
so I
So,
ended up going through kind of a slew of guitars, but my main guitar at the beginning of Machine Head is this stolen Ibanez. like like
that's awesome.
it's like a $200 guitar to begin with. The neck constantly goes ka-chunk every time, like you kind of move it weird, and I can't ever tighten it enough. And but I take out all the pickups, take out all the guts, and I just put one volume knob and one EMG 81 and fucking
That
off
was
to the
it.
races. Yeah,
So
and
so
super overdrive.
so you also transitioned into just only baritone guitars, correct? With Machine Head?
Yeah, later for sure. Yeah.
Later. So
Yeah.
when was that? When did that kind of start happening?
That happens about 99. Like about
Okay.
99, a buddy of mine, so Machine Head had been, we were one of the first bands to do drop tuning, and we're
Right, right.
one of the first bands to tune down to B, and largely in part the reason we were tuning so low is because I'm a baritone. Like my voice is a baritone. So it was just easier
Right.
for me to sing lower. I couldn't sing in E440. It just didn't work for me.
Right.
And
Right.
so, we started doing that. And then somewhere around there, we kind of, make that sound famous. And then, a buddy comes up to me and he's just like, dude, I'm getting this guitar made called a baritone. And it makes your low strings sound, feel tighter and play heavier. And I was like, oh yeah. So then he like gets it done and then he shows it to me and I'm just like, oh shit, like this is fucking killer. So I contact it's a ESP, and I contact ESP, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll make you one," and they make me an SG. And I had played kind of on and off with SGs at that point. And I didn't really like them. I mean, I wanted to like them so bad because they're
Right.
what Tony Iommi played, but
Totally.
I
Yeah.
just they're always top heavy. Like that's I hated them, and I was way into V's at that point. I was like all about flying V's and kind of the classic Gibson like Explorer V combo.
Sure.
And so then they make me this baritone though, and I'm like, wow, this is fucking I mean, this just sounds so much better. You sound more in tune, like everything's just tighter sounding. You can use lighter strings, but it still sounds fucking deep and but bright. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was really like it kind of changed the game for me. And yeah, so from 99 on, pretty much, eventually my whole fleet of guitars, which currently all of my guitars, I've got 10 baritones, and that's all I
Wow.
play is baritone V's and baritone uh, Explorers that are all 28-inch scale. So about 3 inches longer than a standard like 24 fret guitar.
Right. And Epiphone made a signature model, a V for you, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Oh, I
I signed with Gibson, and then they put out a Love Death V for me.
I
Baritone.
need to I want to get one of those. I have like a baritone, the Gretsch, but like when I asked you, I was like, "Are your strings super heavy?" Because on the Gretsch that I have, they're like, there's I think the highest string is like a 13 or whatever, and you are such a great lead guitar player. I was like, how are you doing leads on those thick ass strings? I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
realize
I'm, it's a
you,
nine.
you
Yeah,
know,
it's a nine. It's a 9,
unbelievable.
13, 9, 11, wait, 9, 13, 17, and then 30, 40, 52. So
Wow.
not that big, it's not, and my light strings are, the same as a regular scale guitar, but it's
Wow.
just tighter, it's tighter
Right.
because of the length of the scale.
Yep, exactly. Well, and we also talked a little bit about amp profiling and the quad cortex, which now I'm dipping my toes into that, and I know you are as well. So uh, that for guys like you and me that get drop shipped into fields and play music, it is just so much easier. It's such a game changer,
Totally.
you know.
Totally.
Yeah,
I mean, you
and it
can't,
sounds good.
I mean, just for the consistency of it, not having to ship all of your gear all over town, like it's across the country or to a different country in that case. I mean, I still think that if we're going to do an American tour, if we're going to do a European full scale tour, I'll be bringing my amps. Like
Sure.
I like the feel of an amp. I like the sound of an amp. I like just getting the feedback from an amp.
Yeah.
But I think that, certainly for, we're going down to Latin America here coming up, and just for consistency, rather than have a different amp every day, which is what we'd have to have a rental amp every day, this is just, and I think that, like, really, like, this quad cortex, man, like, I think we've reached that point where we, I think for a while now with the Kempers and the Fractals and the other things that were there before, they were good, sounded good, certainly good enough. I think at this point we've reached, like, we're even now. Like it
Yeah.
is, like, it's the fucking same, if not maybe even better sometimes, which is kind of crazy.
I'm
I
kind
knew
of
we'd
with you,
get here.
man.
I knew we'd
Yeah.
get here, but like I think we're here.
I think we're here, man. And I wanted to argue and I wanted to go, oh, you can't argue. It sounds great. It
Yeah,
sounds great. And when your sound guy, like, guys like you and me, we travel with sound guys. Our sound guy is telling me it sounds better for me. For me out front, what I'm doing,
right.
this is better for me. So in turn, it's better for everyone. It's better for your band. And you can't argue with that. Now if
Yeah,
they were saying, man, it just doesn't match up, well then fuck it, it's not even an argument, it's not even a
th-
question.
totally.
But man, I know it's good stuff. We did Kempers, we've been on Kempers for a while, and now I personally am switching over and doing the quad cortex. And I mean, just messing with it at home, my mind is blown. It's just
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, you just, the amount of low end that you can get on a guitar chunk is crazy. Like,
It's
it's just insane. You're like,
and you're
holy
looking at
shit.
this thing the size of a laptop, and you're just like, what the
Yeah, it's like a
fuck,
fucking iPad. I'm like, this is nuts. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
and I watched the Megadeth rig rundown, and I know they're running MIDI through theirs. They're running their whole show is printed. They're on a click, and
Right,
so
right.
the their pedal changes and everything is printed, so it's just changing. It's not even in front of. And I think I'm still going to do a like you and me also talked about having your analog pedal board out in front of you and having I think I still want to have that element, so there is some sort of a reality to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know.
right.
Um. So random question: did you ever get a chance to tell James Hetfield that he and that band is kind of why you are doing this? Did you get a chance to tell him that?
We toured with Metallica back in the 2010s. I don't know what that, the 2010s,
Yeah.
and yeah, we did 6 months straight with them.
Jesus fucking
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah, it was a dream come true. I mean,
Yeah.
especially as I told you, getting to see them with Raven in front of 250 people, to then playing fucking stadiums and arenas with them, like around the world, Europe, America. And it's funny because I always I always wanted to just be cool. Everybody who meets Hetfield just like fucking, they go crazy on him. And it's like, I watch that every day and I was like, okay, I don't want to be that
You
dude,
don't be that guy. Yeah.
like, and, you know, it's funny because I'm a, I don't want to say I'm a loner still, but like again, like I'm still kind of like, I was telling you, like I didn't have like very many social skills, and I'm not like this super like outgoing dude. Like I just fucking kind of
Yeah.
hang out and I fucking play guitar in the dressing room,
Yeah.
and that's what I do,
Yeah.
and that's all I want to do. And
Me too.
so he so they would usually get to the shows around like 5:30, and
Yeah.
I'm going on at 7:30, so like I would be sitting in the dressing room by myself warming up because no one else in my band is a fucking lunatic like me who wants to start warming up 2 hours before the show. But I'm just doing that, and he would just pop in, just him
Wow.
just pop into the fucking dressing room and just fucking shoot the shit. Nothing. Not just
Yeah.
talk about the Raiders, talk about new band he heard or any band I had heard or whatever, and it was all pretty short, just a few minutes, and like just all right, cool, right on, have a good one. And one day he came in, and we were just hanging out. We were over in Europe, and he's shooting the shit, and we've got like an electronic drum kit in our dressing room, and it's like plugged into a little monitor wedge, and then you can just kind of get on it and you can hear drums, and we had like little cube amps, and we'd kind of rehearse before the show and just kind of work on songs or whatever, and warm up. And he looks over at the kit and he's like, "Can I jump on the kit?" And I was just like, "Yeah." I was like, "Go for it." It's just him and me. And he jumps on the little, it's like a little electronic kit, and he's kind of like just messing around. He's just like, he's like, "You know any Iron Maiden songs?" And I was just like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, what do you want? Like Wrathchild, Killers, like Number of the Beast?" And he's just like, "Play Wrathchild." So we start jamming Wrathchild. He's a
Yeah.
decent drummer. He fucking starts playing Wrathchild and fucking. I was like, "Oh, sick."
Right.
So like, and I'm like, "This is fucking rad." I'm playing Iron Maiden song with James Hetfield on drums. This is crazy.
Right.
And then he stopped the song's over, and he's like, "Know any Metallica?" And I'm like, fucking name it. I was like, name it. I
Right.
got you. Like I got you. And he's like,
Yeah.
Master of Puppets. But I'm like, let's go, Master of Puppets. We jam up Master of Puppets all the way to the quiet part. And I'm like, oh fuck.
Amazing.
And and then I sit there, and he's like, I think I told you this story the other day, right? Anyway, so he sits there, and he's like play your song Aesthetics of Hate, Machine Head song Aesthetics of Hate. And I was like,
It's a great song. It's a
okay.
great
I was like,
song.
okay. Yeah, it's a pretty hard song on the drums though. Like it's fucking,
Yeah.
it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Super fast thrash, and fucking, I knew he was a big fan of that song. In fact, that song is the reason that we ended up getting the tour, because he heard it on Liquid Metal and he just went fucking crazy. We're like, this song fucking rules. Like, just we got to get this
Wow.
band out. And so we start playing it, and he starts playing Aesthetics of Hate on the drums and
Holy shit.
killing it, knows the whole like but like doing all the
Right.
little details. I was like, wow. And so, when we're done, he's like, all right, I gotta get going now. And and as he's walking out the door, he's like, we should do that again. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I was like, wait, hold on. Like, I don't know if my drummer's going to be okay with you getting up and playing the drums for Aesthetics of Hate on
Right.
stage. And he's just like, no, no. He's like, I mean, on guitar. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was just like, so he comes back, and I get word from his assistant comes up to me. He's like, "Yeah, James wants to jam it with you tomorrow. He wants to rehearse a little bit before." So they bring his like practice amp in, and he comes in, and like we start running through like my song and
Holy
James
shit.
Hetfield playing it. I was like, "This is fucking insane." So we get up there, and he comes up, and he fucking plays it. And of course, I bring him out, ladies and gentlemen, James Hetfield. Brah! I mean, everybody
Right.
loses their fucking shit, right? And so he plays the song with us, and it was like it was such a blur, and it was so intense. And I was really like, the crowd, we didn't have the crowd up until that point, and then finally get James up there, and so like all I thinking about is just trying to like keep the crowd and win the crowd and like get the crowd going
Sure.
crazy. And like in some ways, you know, I I barely even make eye contact with him because I'm so
Right.
like I'm kind of freaked out that James Hetfield is playing my fucking song with me. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I look over there a couple of times and then and we finished the song and he was like, dude, that was fucking awesome. He's like, we need to do that again. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, okay, let's do it again.
Sure.
And so fucking the next day he comes out and then it's like kind of like, doesn't happen the next day and then another day goes by and they're like, oh yeah, and oh he can't make the rehearsal. Oh he, doesn't, look, if it's not doesn't happen, totally fine. Anyway, I'm getting over and I look over in the corner and there he is like warming up like on his guitar. And I was like, "Oh shit, we're gonna do it." So I invite him out again. Again, crowd goes crazy. And and this time I'm like, "Okay, dude, like be in the moment.
Yeah.
Be present here. This is a pretty special moment that may never ever ever happen." And
Right.
you kind of blew, it's kind of like having this conversation even prior, like, you kind of blew it last time. Like, why did you not make eye contact with James Hetfield? You know?
Right.
And so that this time I did, and I didn't even care about the crowd. Like I just
That's awesome.
fucking, I was just rocking to him, and he was coming up and like singing, and then I was like, jump on the mic for the chorus, and he's like, aesthetics of hate, and then he jumps, like we're kind of singing back and forth, and I'm like, this is fucking crazy, and and he just kind of hangs around like my area, and this is in the
Right.
round, right? So this is like in the round, so like you kind of were forced to like go everywhere or like massive chunks of the crowd
Right.
just couldn't even see you or you had your back to them, but I just kind of hang in his area too. And and at one point we get into the middle section, which is kind of a longer instrumental section, and he's fucking banging and he's fucking rocking out and he's got his eyes closed and he's just fucking looking up at the sky and he's just playing my fucking song, and I'm like, okay, Robb Flynn, don't be cool. Like
Right.
don't try and be cool. This is not the moment. And I grab him by his shoulders and I scream in his face, "This is fucking awesome!" And I just shake his shoulders like this, and I shake his
I
shoulders,
love
and,
that.
and he fucking opens his eyes and he goes, "Yeah!" I was like, and so yes, I very much did get the chance to,
Ah,
say, in a very roundabout way. And of course, like later on, I was just like, dude, like, if it wasn't for fucking Metallica, like,
yeah.
you were my fucking Ed Sullivan, Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment. And,
Well,
just,
I think you did that sort of that what you did that for all of us. That moment of grabbing him on the shoulders and telling him how awesome it is. That's speaking for all, because he's that guy for everyone,
right,
all of us.
right.
We've played
Uh,
with him too, and he would walk by, and I couldn't even say hi to the guy, and we'd
I know, right?
say hi to Robert, and we'd say hi to Lars. I could never say hi to him because
Right.
so you did that for me, and I want to say, to a certain extent, you're also that guy for me as well. I have followed your career and your music and Machine Head and Violent and every, the same way. And when I met you, when we walked up, and you were walking up to us, and you were so nice, and you were so humble and generous, and with your time, it meant a lot to me. So knowing that he was like that is very awesome, and knowing that somebody that I look up to thinks that of him as well, is that's such a great story. That's such a great story.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
dude, I was so stoked to meet you guys. You know what I mean? Like I
oh
was
man,
like as I told you then, like The Sufferer and The Witness is fucking top 10 desert
wow.
island album
Well,
for
when
me.
you
I mean,
when
I
you
fucking love 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 every fucking, it's a masterpiece, top to
oh
fucking
man,
bottom. Classic,
thank
dude. It's a classic. Killer lyrics, killer fucking hooks, killer songs, just fucking sick riffs, like fast, pissed, like fucking all of it. It's everything,
yeah.
like it was such. I remember I want to say on that Metallica tour is about the time, I want to say that's about the time that I got into that record. Like
Wow.
maybe it was a little later or before. I don't know, it could even be before. When did that come out? What
Oh,
year?
that record came out in 2006,
Yeah,
and
yeah. So
it's
yeah,
it's
I
it's
got
funny.
into it. I was listening to that record on that Metallica tour and fucking
Wow.
going, "Oh my God, this is so fucking good." I was like, "This is
Wow.
fucking rad."
Well,
So like to meet you guys was a big fucking deal, man. Like I
that
fucking loved it. And I'd never like we had never crossed paths in all these years. Like we had never played a
I
festival. So I was
know.
like, it was weird, right? Like it was
Like
just
we've
strange.
played the same fest, but on different days, a
Right,
bunch,
right,
like a bunch.
right.
Because I've always been like, "Fuck, Machine Head are playing on Friday, and we're there on Saturday or Sunday." I will say our singer Tim McElrath, who I was with, he doesn't get shaken much, and things that he lets a lot of things roll off his back, and he's just kind of whatever. And you said that, and when you walked off, he was just like, "Holy shit, that's crazy, that's fucking awesome." Because we're big metalheads, and Rise Against. We listen to more metal and thrash metal than anything.
I
So
do. When
it
you
was,
were just like, I love violence, I was like, what? I was like, the dude
yeah.
from Rise Against loves violence. Like,
Oh
holy
no,
shit.
I was going
It
all
was the
in.
last thing I thought was going to come
Yeah.
out of your mouth. And I was like, oh,
No, no,
fuck.
no, no, no. I was going
Yeah.
all in. I was like, dude, eternal. Matter of fact, I'm wearing an eternal. You can look in the video for. There's a song we have called "I Don't Want to Be Here Anymore." It's either that song or we did a cover, Hollis Brown, for a Dylan cover. I'm wearing an Eternal Nightmare shirt in those
Wow.
videos.
Rad.
So I'll see if I can find that and I'll send it to you. But
Awesome.
uh, anyway, just man, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I do ask. This has been such a great interview. And I do ask everybody, and you kind of brushed on it, if there's one that got away, like something that got stolen, or you had to hawk, or you just lost a guitar, a pedal, an amp, anything. Is there one of those for you?
Dude, we were living in Oakland like all that time. I got so many, I had lost a lot of shit got stolen.
I bet.
Amps,
Yeah.
fucking guitars, I mean, so many. I think I've had like three or four guitars stolen. Like I'd had
Yeah.
one or two amps stolen. Like, we were practicing in East Oakland. Like
Wow.
it was the hood.
Yeah.
And, shit would go down. And so, yeah, yeah,
Was it
definitely.
your?
There's more than a few that got away.
Yeah.
I even had my house, broken it, much later when I was famous and, had money. I I got my house got stolen. I kind of got targeted, like there's a
Right.
ring of guitar thieves that were going around the Bay Area, and I got targeted. And I had a lot of guitars at my house, and they ended up getting the Burn My Eyes guitar that I recorded the album with, the Ibanez. I
Oh,
was talking
that's
about the stolen Ibanez. They got a couple of prototypes. They stole my kid's guitar. They ended up getting, I mean, they stole
God
like
damn it.
$30,000 worth of cash and jewelry and fucking laptops and whatever, horse shit like that. And then they ended up getting a guitar that Dimebag Darrell had gifted me on stage at the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago.
God damn it.
And, uh, and that was like, that's the one that really probably hurt the most for a while. It got like it was. I mean, it got like covered like national news. It was crazy. Like I don't. It was
Right. Right. I
honestly,
remember.
it was weird. Honestly, like it was like motherfuckers that never gave two shits about Machine, and now I got news vans outside of my house, like Grammy
Right.
nominated, blah blah blah. And I was like, this is just weird.
Right.
And but I ended up about. It was missing that particular dime bag guitar. It was a blue dime bolt,
Okay.
and it was one of his prototype guitars. It was he hadn't even the series
Jesus.
hadn't even launched, and it was with, if you remember, it wasn't Dean that he originally launched it with. It was
It was a Washburn.
Washburn, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it was a Washburn, and I ended up about 5 years ago. I got that guitar back.
No shit.
Yeah, five. I mean, it had been missing for 6 or 7 years at that point. And you know, whenever you get, I mean, now certainly, you get something stolen and like, a bunch of people, internet lead after internet lead that goes nowhere. You know what I mean? And all your friends
Yeah.
report and stuff, and people from, and they're trying to help, but a lot of times it's just leads that go nowhere. And you know, I really just I gave up on getting it back
Sure.
because thinking about it just hurt too much, like it just
Right.
brought me back. And I was kind of like, I even like I had to get, my kids were really young at the time, and they were like, they thought like people were gonna float in the windows like Scooby-Doo and steal stuff, and like, so they were
Yeah.
like freaked out, and I just had to stop thinking
Yeah.
about it. Like I had to like, it can make you paranoid, it can make you just turn on all your friends. And I had to just let it go, basically, to just like have peace in my life. And one day, I get this like in random email, and I look at the guitar, and I was like, I had made some changes to it. I had put an EMG pickup in the bridge, so that was the one thing that I did. I changed out the pickup, and I took off some of the knobs, as I do. And I
Yeah.
looked at it, and I was like, no one else would do that. You know what I mean? Like, no one else is going to do the dumb shit that I do to my guitars, like a
Right.
dime bag,
Right.
especially. And I was like, that's my fucking guitar. And so
Yeah.
I ended up meeting with the person, and they ended up, it's kind of a weird story, but I just didn't even care at that point. And I got that fucking guitar back, man. And I still have
So
it, like, to this
so
day.
did they get it in a pawn shop? Did they?
It was supposedly it was they bought auctions of storage units, right? So that's a thing now. Like people
Oh.
like, people don't pay their thing at default, and then the
Right.
storage company auctions it off,
Yeah.
and whatever's inside of it, fucking you get. And so supposedly they got it in an auctioned off storage unit, and
Wow.
then yeah, crazy.
And they had seen the story and they knew it was yours.
Yeah, I don't listen. I mean,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Let's just say yeah.
Did did you have to buy it back, or did they give
It
it
was
to you?
it was kind of weird. I don't want to go too much into it, but it was just like
Okay.
I got it back, and
At
that's
least
all
you
that
got it
matters. You know
back.
what I
At
mean? I
least you
got
got
it
it
back.
back.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's a great story. That's a great, at least it came back. You got it back. Holy shit.
yeah, yeah.
I've had one that got stolen, and I'm hoping one day it does come back. So every time I hear stories like that, it fills me with
Yeah.
confidence.
I
Yeah.
feel like the Burn My Eyes guitar is going to come back one of these days too, just because it's so like unique. It's covered with stickers, and you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it's a piece of shit guitar. There's no reason on earth for anybody to keep it. Like it was
Yeah.
a bottom of the barrel, cheapest Ibanez ever made. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was just the guitar that I had at the time. So
Yeah.
I feel like that'll come back one day too. And I really,
Well,
that one would be pretty special to get back. The other
those
guitars I don't really care about. Three other guitars stolen. I don't really care about them, but that
yeah.
would be pretty special. Like an Ibanez,
Well,
black Ibanez Strat with a bunch of stickers all over it.
it's what we do with
Rancid
those.
sticker.
Really? It,
Yeah,
it's 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 what we do with those guitars that make them special and important to us. That's the sentimental value. It's what we've done with those things, and that's what we remember. Um, wow. Well, good luck with that. I hope that does come back to you. And like you said, you guys are going to be in South America real soon. So if anybody's down there listening, go and see Machine Head. Jesus Christ, I would. Man, Rob, thank you so much for giving me your time, man.
you're welcome, man. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Of course. Well, hopefully we will see each other down the line. Hopefully we will do a tour together, or at least another show where we
Yes.
actually get to play.
That'd
That'd
be
be great.
yes, I'd love to. I mean, I
Yeah.
already saw you guys. Saw you guys when you guys toured with Deftones, but I would love to see you like, you know, from the side of the
Well,
stage. That'd be fucking awesome.
me too. And if we do that, I want you to come on and play whatever song of ours with us, and then I want to come on with you and play Aesthetics of Hate.
All
It
right,
won't be as
all
good as
right.
James
Let's
Hetfield.
do it.
It won't be it
We'll do
won't
a
be
guitar
Hetfield
trade.
worthy, but I'd love to. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Fuck
Okay,
yeah.
okay, Rob. Well, thanks so much for giving me your time, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Peace, man.
I love when somebody still has the sort of youthful exuberance that they had. I love that that guy is still, you know, such a fan. You know, if you watch any of the video of this interview, him and I are both just can hardly contain our excitement and our glee when we talk about the things that interested us and excited us when we were younger. That's what makes us all great. He that was the second time he had told me that story. The first time being when I'd met him before about James Hetfield. And you can tell it's this wonder comes out in him and this excitement like that has been there. You can tell since he was that kid when he met James Hetfield, as you heard at the show signing autographs. You know, at that show where Metallica were opening for Raven. I've heard about that show. I've just heard about it, and he was there, and he's still that kid, and I'm still that kid. When I heard Violence Eternal Nightmare, and I wanted to meet Robb Flynn back then, he's still that guy. And I just love that. I love it when somebody hasn't let this life jade them or this business. All of that can happen. You can get chewed up and spit out. But if you're still coming back for more, if you're still that person you were, if you still have that fire in you that you had when you were a teenager, because that's combustible, man. That energy you have when you're a kid, you need that if you're going to try to do this with your life, because it takes a lot and it beats the shit out of you and it spits you out and you got to keep coming back for more. When I meet guys like my guest today, when I meet guys like Robb Flynn, I realize that's why you are where you are. You had that in you then, you have it in you now. It's just as powerful now as it was then. Some people lose it, and that's a shame. But it happens, and I don't blame them. It's hard. It's hard to get knocked down and keep coming back. It's hard. But he's still that guy, and I am too. I'm here for it. I'm going to keep coming back. I hope you keep coming back. I hope you keep coming back and listening to this podcast because I'm going to keep doing them. I've said it a lot. Um, so yeah, again, just thanks to Robb Flynn. What a genuine guy. What a fucking great player. What an amazing musician. Great singer. Great songwriter. He's been in some of the best bands. Just what a yeah, what an awesome guy. Thanks here at the end go out to the folks over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. Find out what they're doing at jimdunlop.com. I'm also going to give shouts out to, the wonderful folks over at DistroKid. Uh, DistroKid are just doing amazing work. They're making it so bands and artists can put out their records on all the streaming platforms. That's as simple as it gets. If you listen, there was a commercial I did an ad at the top of this where you can get a discount on DistroKid, and check that out, man. It makes it even easier for you to get your records on the streaming platforms. They're putting the power back in the musician's hands. Which, if you've been a musician, if you are a musician, you're not given much. You're not given much power. But DistroKid help you take some of it back. So check out what DistroKid are doing. Here at the end, I'm going to leave you with some of Robb Flynn's amazing guitar work. And man, you could just go down the list. I'm going to leave you with the song we talked about that James Hetfield played with him on stage, Aesthetics of Hate. This is off of their The Blackening record. This is from 2007. The record was The Blackening. The song's Aesthetic of Hate. It's the third song. Listen to this riff. Jesus Christ. Listen to this riff. Try to play this riff, folks. You also heard he's doing it with a baritone guitar. So if you're trying, do it in B, or tune your guitar to B, B standard. Holy shit, this is an amazing riff and just an amazing thrash metal song. And I love it. I'm here for it. So check out Aesthetics of Hate. Check out Machine Head. Also, man, if you're doing a Robb Flynn deep dive, go to the record Eternal Nightmare by the band Violence and listen to the whole goddamn thing. Listen to the whole goddamn thing. From, just listen to the whole record. I can't name one song. I mean, for me, it's one of those I put on and I just listen to the whole goddamn thing. I just go back to front. Go for Phobophobia. Go for Serial Killer. Go for Bodies on Bodies. Kill on Command. All of them. Anyway, sorry. I could go on and on. Okay, thank you again so much for listening to the Anti-Heroes podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to keep doing them, and I will see you next time.
dead man's face. I take the wings of a man not yet in his grave. But take what's over all too soon, because nothing is over, nothing's wrong, so we bury you. For the love of mother, I will sing this fucking song after it's of hate. I hope you run in hell. Oh. Wow! The ones I read on that screen left me fucking sick. I felt the hatred rising, you son of a bitch. You put it